Hi, I'm Rollie Dimos, and I'm the Internal Audit Director for the Assemblies of God. And today I want to talk about a tough topic, fraud in the church. And you might ask, Rollie, does fraud really happen in the church? But I can tell you from firsthand experience, it does. And it's devastating to the church. Let me share 5 of the most common ways that fraud happens in the church and give you some ideas on how to prevent it. The first one is corruption. Corruption is when the leadership of the church just uses church assets for their personal use. The best way to protect yourself from this is to have accountability and to segregate duties. Now this means having 2 sets of eyes on every transaction, that one person is not involved in all of the finances. The second common way that fraud happens in churches is through billing frauds. This is when a vendor either overstates their bills to the church or a church employee submits a personal bill and gets that paid by the church. So in both of these, it takes some diligence. For example, when you have a vendor's bill to be paid, someone should be able to say that I received that service, that's the amount that was quoted, and I expect to pay, and it's okay to pay. The service was completed. Now, to catch someone submitting their personal bill to get paid by the church, well, that's going to take some due diligence and having several people looking at the finances and just being aware. The third area of fraud is expense reimbursement. This is when employees of the church or volunteers of the church submit inflated receipts for travel expense or for just supplies. Again, some due diligence is necessary to say that was a valid expense, that we really received these supplies, these office supplies, or the employee really went on that trip, and these are good reimbursement. These are good receipts to reimburse. The fourth way that fraud happens in the church is called check tampering, and it can happen 2 ways. The first is that a donation by check gets intercepted, and instead of getting deposited into the church account, it gets deposited into an individual's account. And the second way that this happens is when the church writes a check, say for the monthly cell phone bill, someone intercepts that check and crosses out the church account number and puts in their personal account number. So instead of paying the church's cell phone bill, it pays some individual's cell phone bill. So again, the way to prevent this from happening is to have 2 people involved in collecting the donations and 2 people involved in writing the checks and signing the checks and mailing the checks. And then lastly, the 5th fraud that happens most often in churches is skimming. Skimming means just taking money right out of the offering plate. And again, you might ask, has someone really done that? And yes, people really have taken money right out of the offering plate. So how do you protect yourself from that? Well, you have at least 2 people taking the offerings. You have at least 2 people taking the offering back to the office to count, and 2 people are always there counting the offering. So if you'll put just some simple controls in place, segregating duties, having 2 people involved in your finances, and some due diligence, you'll protect your church from these common fraud schemes.